There's a moment every mom knows. It's not when the alarm goes off, it's that second before. When you're still in that space between sleeping and waking, and for just an instant, just one instant, you're nobody. You're not mom, not wife. You have no to-do list. You simply exist. And then reality knocks on the door. Your eyes open, and with them comes everything. The mental list of what needs to be done. Yesterday's worries that slept beside you and woke up before you did. The exhaustion that even the night couldn't erase. You get up, and before you even leave the bed, it starts. Will I make it today? Will I be enough? Will I ... double quotes. Is there still hope for me? That question. You don't say it out loud, but it's there, whispering in the depths of your chest, especially on days when everything feels too heavy. On days when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize that woman of faith you thought you'd be. The one who would pray every day, who would be patient, who would have all the right answers. The truth is, you're tired. And it's not just lack of sleep tired. It's tired trying to be enough when you never feel enough tired. But what if I told you that it's exactly there, in that place of exhaustion, in that moment when you feel furthest from God, that He's closer to you than ever? What if I told you that God's mercy doesn't wait for you to be ready, put together, strong, that it finds you still in your pajamas, with your heart in disarray, with your faith wavering? Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? In a world where love has conditions, where grace has limits, where everything is, you give me, I give you. This idea seems impossible, but it's exactly that impossibility that makes everything possible. Today I want to show you something that can change not just your day, but the way you see every fall, every failure, every moment when you feel like you won't make it. And if this conversation is already stirring something in you, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel and share it with that friend who's also tired, because sometimes we need to remind each other that we're not alone on this journey. Now, think back to that chaotic 6am kitchen. You're there, trying to hold everything together, feeling like you're failing on all fronts. And you know what's most painful? It's not just the physical exhaustion. It's that other tiredness, the kind that lives in your soul. It's when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize that woman full of dreams and faith you used to be. Remember her, the one who believed it would be different, that she could balance it all, that she'd be that patient mom from the movies, that present wife, that woman of powerful prayer. But real life isn't a movie. It's spilled milk. It's overdue bills. It's nights awake with a sick child and mornings when you can barely remember the name of the medicine you need to give. It's praying for patience while your son asks why, for the 15th time in 5 minutes. And it's right there, on that floor of reality, that something beautiful happens. God's mercy doesn't wait for you to clean up the house, organize your heart, and be ready to receive it. It finds you in the middle of the mess, with messy hair, coffee-stained pajamas, a heart full of guilt and eyes full of exhaustion. Think about it. When your child falls and scrapes their knee, do you wait for them to clean themselves up before you run to embrace them? No. You run while they're still on the ground, with tears and blood, and you wrap them up exactly as they are. Dirty, hurt, scared. That's how God embraces you. Not when you finally manage to have that perfect 1-hour morning devotional with hot coffee and light streaming through the window, like on a magazine cover, but when you're washing dishes at 11 p.m., with tears streaming down because the day was too much, and you don't know if you'll be able to wake up and do it all again tomorrow. I want you to understand something deep here. God's mercy is not a prize for good behavior. It's not a medal you earn when you finally manage to read the Bible every day for a week straight. It's an ocean, and oceans don't run dry. You might be at the shore, afraid to wet your feet. You might be ankle deep, testing the waters. Or you might be completely submerged, not seeing the surface. But the ocean remains an ocean. Mercy remains mercy, infinite, inexhaustible, always there. And unlike our human love, so beautiful but so limited, God's love doesn't negotiate. It doesn't say, I love you, but ... double quotes. There's no only if you ... There's no until you ... double. It's a love that insists when you quit, that stays when you run, that whispers, you are my daughter, When fear screams, you failed. Let me show you how this works in practice. In your real day, you're in the car, taking the kids to school. Traffic stopped. You're already late. Someone cuts you off and you let slip that word you promised not to say anymore. The kids go silent in the back seat. You feel guilt rising like a wave. There I go again. Failed again. God must be so disappointed. But here's the truth that will break that cycle. God isn't in the passenger seat with a clipboard, marking your mistakes. He's whispering, I know you're exhausted. I know you're doing the best you can. And my grace is greater than this moment. Because God's word isn't an instruction manual for being perfect. It's a love letter reminding you that you're already loved. You know that verse that says the Lord's mercies are new every morning? Think about what that really means. Every morning, every single one. It doesn't matter how yesterday went. It doesn't matter how many times you failed last week. It doesn't matter that you've skipped your devotional for the last 5 days because you were too tired. Every morning, when your eyes open, even before you remember everything you need to do, God's mercy is already there, fresh, new, waiting for you. Just like Lamentations 3:22-23 says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. It's like that bread you bake on Sunday. Fresh, warm, fragrant. On Sunday, everyone eats it in awe. On Monday, it's still good. On Tuesday, it's a little hard, but still works. By Thursday, nobody wants it anymore. But God's mercy? It's fresh bread every day. Every single day. That changes everything, doesn't it? Because it means you can start over right now. You don't need to wait for Monday. You don't need to wait for New Year's. You don't need to wait for when things calm down, which is code for never. Because when does life with kids really calm down? Right now, you can start over. But I know what's going through your mind. That's beautiful, but you don't understand. I'm so tired. It's not just lack of sleep tired. It's a tiredness that lives deeper. I understand. It's that tiredness that not even vacation solved. That not even a full night's sleep cured. It's when your body rests, but your heart keeps racing, worried, planning, fearing. You lie in bed, and your mind takes off. What if we can't pay that bill? What if my son doesn't adjust at school? What if my marriage is cooling down, and I don't know how to warm it up again? What if I'm not good enough? What if I've ruined everything? What if? Double quotes. It's in that space, between fear and faith, that God is building something in you. An altar. Not a pretty church altar, with flowers and embroidered cloth, but an invisible altar, made of every time you chose to trust even without understanding. Every tear you shed and said, Lord, I don't see a way out, but I know you're here. Every night you surrendered your worries even knowing they'd return by morning. Brick by brick, prayer by prayer, surrender by surrender. Trusting God isn't pretending everything's fine. It's not putting on a fake smile and saying, I'm blessed when inside you're falling apart. That's not faith, that's performance. And God didn't ask for a performance. He asked for truth. Lord, I'm afraid. Father, I don't know if I can do this. God, I'm exhausted and don't know how to continue. These honest, raw, unfiltered prayers are music to God's ears. Because finally you've stopped trying to impress Him and started truly trusting Him. You know what happens when you stop trying to control everything? When you finally let go of that situation you've been holding onto tightly, trying to force a solution, manipulate an outcome, guarantee a result, God takes over. Finally, He can work. Because while your hands are clenched, His hands can't hold. But when you open your fingers, when you say, Lord, I surrender, something shifts in the spiritual realm. It doesn't mean everything magically resolves, but it means you're not carrying it alone anymore. And there's a deep peace in knowing the weight isn't all yours. Think about that time you tried to carry all the grocery bags from the car in one trip. 6 bags, keys, purse, everything hanging from your arms. You're almost falling, stumbling, but stubborn. I got this. I don't need to make 2 trips. Until someone shows up and says, let me take some of those. And when you finally accept help, the relief is physical. Your shoulders relax. You breathe deep. Why didn't I accept help sooner? That's exactly what God is saying. Let me carry this for you, but there's something even deeper I need to show you. Sometimes it's not just about being tired. It's about being in a barren season. You've been praying for something for months, years. Nothing changes. You plant, water, tend, wait. Nothing grows. You look around and see other women receiving their answers, living their promises, celebrating their miracles. And you're in winter. Everything seems dead, stalled, silent. Has God forgotten me? No, dear one. He hasn't forgotten. He's planting. Because there are things that only grow in the invisible. There are roots that only deepen in silence. There are transformations that only happen in the waiting. When you plant a seed, what happens first? Do you see leaves and flowers immediately? No. First, under the ground where no one sees, the seed breaks open. It looks like death, but it's germination. Then roots begin descending, deep, firm, anchoring themselves. Only then, after all that invisible work, does something break through the surface. What you call delay, God calls preparation. What you call silence, God calls deep work. What you call winter, God calls foundation. And here's the promise that will hold your heart. God doesn't waste any season. Not one. Not even this one that seems empty. I know it's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of waiting, when the test comes back negative again, when the bills don't add up again, when the relationship doesn't improve again, when you pray and the heavens seem like brass. But Christian hope isn't cheap optimism. It's not think positive and everything will work out. It's something much stronger, much more real. It's looking at the cross and understanding. If God transformed history's greatest tragedy into its greatest victory, He can transform my situation too. If He turned death into life, He can turn my winter into spring. If He raised Jesus, He can resurrect my dreams, my marriage, my faith, my joy. This isn't positive thinking. It's faith anchored in who God is and what He's already done. As Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. So today, even if your hope is the size of a mustard seed, almost invisible, that's enough. Because it's not the size of your faith that moves mountains. It's the size of the God you believe in. And while you wait, while the roots deepen, something beautiful is happening. God is touching you, not with visible hands, but with invisible grace. In the simplest moments, when you're folding laundry and suddenly feel a peace you can't explain. When you're driving and a song plays and you cry, but they're tears that cleanse, not destroy. When you look at your sleeping children and something inside you whispers, "It's okay. You're not alone." These are God's touches, silent, tender, powerful. He doesn't need thunder. He doesn't need spectacular signs. Sometimes the deepest healing comes in the silence of the kitchen, in the early morning hours when you can't sleep, in the parked car when you need a moment before going inside. God knows every wound, every disappointment, every broken dream, every time you felt invisible, inadequate, forgotten. And He's applying the balm exactly where it's needed. You don't need to understand how. You just need to let Him. Stop fighting. Stop trying to fix everything alone. Stop pretending you're okay when you're not. Stop wearing masks. Stop being afraid to be honest with God. Just let Him touch you. And when He touches you, you'll know. Not because you'll hear an audible voice or see a light, but because something inside you will change. The weight will lift, hope will return, peace will come, and you'll recognize, it was the Lord who touched me. Now, let me show you the most beautiful truth of all. Everything in this world is temporary. Your youth, which you feel slipping through your fingers. The baby phase, which is exhausting but passes too quickly. The strength you once had, and now feel lacking. Even this struggle that seems eternal, it too will pass. But you know what doesn't pass? The Lord's mercy. It reached you when you were a child and didn't even know His name. It held you in adolescence when you made poor choices. It found you when you were lost. It lifted you when you fell. And it will continue every day of your life until your last breath. God's mercy is the golden thread that runs through your entire story. When you look back, whether a year from now, 10 years, or at the end of the journey, you'll see that thread shining in every chapter. Even in the darkest ones, especially in the darkest ones. And you'll understand, you were never alone. Not for one day. As Philippians 1-6 promises, and I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. So rest, beloved daughter. Stop punishing yourself for not being perfect. Stop demanding of yourself that you have that impeccable devotional time every single day. Stop thinking God is disappointed when you stumble. He knew you would stumble. He knew when he chose you. And he chose you anyway, because his love isn't a response to your performance. It's a response to his character. And he is faithful. Always has been, always will be. He who began the good work in you will complete it. Not because you're strong enough, but because he's faithful enough. So today, in that messy kitchen, in that imperfect life, in that wavering faith, you can rest. Because the mercy that found you when you fell will never, ever abandon you. It's with you now. It will be with you tomorrow when the alarm goes off and the circus starts again. And it will be with you until the day you close your eyes here and open them on the other side, where finally, you'll truly rest. Until then, breathe deep. You're going to make it. Not alone, but with the one who never let you go and never will. Now I want to hear from you. What area of your life have you been trying to control alone? Where are you carrying a weight you don't need to? Share in the comments. Sometimes writing it out is the first step toward letting go. And who knows, your courage to be honest might inspire another woman to do the same. If this message touched your heart the way it touched mine while preparing it for you, share it with that friend who's tired, the one who's in the waiting, the one who needs to remember that God's mercy has no end. And stay here with me. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, because every week we'll be here, reminding each other that we're not alone, that we're not lost, and that God's love is greater than any chaos life brings. I'll see you in our next time together. Until then, rest in the mercy that never fails.